Have you ever wondered why some people seem to move ahead while everyone else stays stuck? You work hard, you pay the bills, maybe you even save a bit. But the dream of real freedom always feels just out of reach. You look around, and you realize most people you know are in the same place, working, spending, surviving, but not really growing. Here's the uncomfortable truth. What you're seeing isn't bad luck or poor timing. It's a system designed to keep you exactly where you are. This is the middle class trap. And if you don't understand how it works, you'll spend your whole life inside it. We're told that being middle class is the goal, that it's the reward for doing everything right, getting a degree, landing a stable job, buying a home, paying your taxes. But somewhere along the way, the goalposts moved. What used to be a sign of success is now a safety cage dressed up as comfort. You're not poor enough to be desperate, and not rich enough to be free. You're just comfortable enough to stop questioning it. And that's exactly where the trap begins. The middle class trap isn't just about money. It's a mindset, a structure, and a global pattern that repeats itself in individuals, companies, and even entire nations. Economists call it the middle income trap. A situation where a country grows fast enough to escape poverty, but then hits a wall. Growth slows, innovation stops, and the system becomes too rigid to evolve. And if you zoom in, you'll see the same thing happening in people's lives. Comfort replaces curiosity, routine replaces risk, and slowly, progress stops. In 2025, over 8 billion people share this planet. Only about 1%, roughly 81 million people, are truly wealthy. Around 60%, or nearly 5 billion, make up the global middle class. They're not starving, they're not thriving either. They're just stuck. Trapped in a life of endless payments, minor upgrades, and quiet frustration. It's the same pattern across continents, from office workers in London to small business owners in Manila, from engineers in Lagos to realtors in Los Angeles. The details change, but the story doesn't. So, what's actually holding people back? To answer that, we have to understand how the trap works. And the best place to look might not be in a person's wallet, but in how entire economies get stuck in the same way. After the financial crises and the pandemic, Southeast Asian economies like Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines faced a problem. They had escaped poverty decades ago and built thriving export industries, yet their growth had slowed down. They were caught in what experts call the middle income trap. For years they relied on foreign multinationals to power their growth, big Western or Japanese corporations that built factories, created jobs, and brought investment. But there was a catch. These companies kept the real value, the innovation, the technology, the patents, for themselves. The local economies grew, yes, but not from the inside. When foreign demand slowed or costs rose, growth stalled. This is the same dynamic at play in our personal finances. Most of us depend on external engines for income, our jobs, our employers, the market. We trade time for money in a system where someone else owns the value we help create. Just like those ASEAN economies, we've outsourced our innovation. We get a paycheck, not a profit. We stay busy, not free. And here's where the trap tightens. When the system starts to stagnate, we try to fix it with the same tools that built it. We chase higher salaries, not higher skills. We upgrade our lifestyle instead of upgrading our strategy. We buy more stuff to feel like we're moving forward, when really, we're just adding weight to the same old treadmill. Economists like Daron Acemoglu and James Robinson describe this pattern on a national scale as a problem of extractive institutions. In simple terms, it means the rules are built to benefit those who already hold the power. Innovation threatens them, so they resist change. And you can see the same thing inside personal lives. When people find a bit of comfort, a stable job, a car, a mortgage, they start protecting that comfort instead of growing beyond it. They stop taking risks, stop learning, stop questioning. They become their own institution, rigid, defensive, and afraid of creative destruction. Now, that phrase, creative destruction, might sound dramatic, but it's at the heart of all progress. It means that for something new to grow, something old has to die. In economies, it's the death of outdated industries. In our lives, it's the death of outdated habits, outdated thinking, outdated comfort zones. The problem is, most people cling to the old because it feels safe, even when it's slowly suffocating them. Look at the difference between Southeast Asia and places like South Korea or Taiwan. In the 1980s, they went through painful change. They democratized, they built homegrown industries, they invested heavily in education and technology. Companies like Samsung, Hyundai, and TSMC didn't just appear, they were built from decades of risk-taking and reinvestment. Those societies embraced creative destruction. They allowed the old to fade so the new could rise. And that's exactly what individuals have to do to escape their own version of the trap. Let's be clear, the trap isn't about laziness or lack of effort. The middle class works hard. In fact, they often work the hardest. The issue is direction. You can row all day, but if you're rowing in circles, effort won't save you. The middle class trap feeds on misplaced effort, on people working endlessly for comfort instead of freedom, for stability instead of mobility. And that's why comfort is dangerous. It feels earned. You've built a career, you've got responsibilities, maybe even a mortgage and a nice car. You've made it, right? But comfort has a cost. Once you have something to lose, your appetite for risk disappears. You stop thinking like a builder and start thinking like a caretaker. You protect, maintain, repeat. And slowly, you stop growing. Let's look at an example. A teacher who's worked diligently for 20 years but still can't retire comfortably. A small business owner so tied to daily operations that they can't scale. An office worker who gets a 3% raise each year but spends it all on rent and bills. They're not failures, they're the backbone of the economy. But the system rewards stability, not transformation. It teaches people how to manage, not how to multiply. And that's exactly how the trap maintains itself. It rewards predictable behavior. The middle-class life is structured around predictable payments, mortgages, car loans, subscriptions, taxes. The more consistent you are, the more the system can rely on you. Every bank, government, and corporation depends on a stable, predictable middle class to function, which means the system will never encourage you to break free. It needs you to stay exactly where you are. But that doesn't mean escape is impossible. It just means you have to play a different game. Escaping the middle-class trap isn't about becoming ultra-wealthy overnight. It's about shifting from being a consumer of systems to a creator of them, from renting your time to owning your value. And that starts with one simple but uncomfortable truth. You can't escape the trap with the same mindset that built it. Across Africa, for example, economists from the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa have been studying how nations can avoid this trap. Their research shows that escaping it requires a holistic structural shift. Not just faster growth, but smarter growth, building domestic capacity, investing in innovation, upgrading systems. And that's exactly what individuals need to do too. It's not enough to work more, you have to work differently. Build a personal system that compounds your value. That might mean developing a digital skill that earns while you sleep. It might mean building a small real estate portfolio, or starting a side business that scales beyond your own labor. The goal isn't just income, it's leverage. Real freedom comes from owning something that grows without you having to constantly push it. That's how economies escape the trap, by developing industries that produce their own innovation. And that's how individuals escape it, by creating value that multiplies itself. Think about how this parallels investment in real estate. Most middle-class families see property as the ultimate goal, a sign that you've made it. But owning one home with a mortgage isn't an investment, it's a liability with a roof. Real investors think differently. They look for assets that generate cash flow, not comfort. They buy properties that work for them, not ones they work for. They understand that wealth isn't measured by possessions, it's measured by control. In the same way, countries that control their production, like Taiwan controlling chip manufacturing or Malaysia building its own tech ecosystem, gain resilience. They're not at the mercy of external demand, they own part of the value chain. And that's exactly the mindset shift you need to make on a personal level. Stop being part of someone else's value chain. Build your own. Let's talk about the role of innovation. In countries caught in the middle income trap, innovation stalls because the system doesn't reward creativity, it rewards obedience. People who challenge the system are seen as threats. But in the personal middle class trap, the same thing happens quietly inside your own head. You become afraid to change, afraid to stand out, afraid to fail. You start thinking small because thinking big feels dangerous. But innovation always feels dangerous. That's why it's rare. Here's what's fascinating. The same research shows that societies begin to truly benefit from democracy and open institutions once they reach about 25% of US income levels. Below that, control and order help growth. Above that, freedom and innovation drive it further. It's the same for people. In the early stages of life, discipline and structure help you grow. But once you've achieved stability, control starts to hold you back. You have to loosen it, to allow creativity, experimentation, and change to push you forward. And yet, in this new era, the world has changed. The US is no longer the global anchor of export-led growth it once was. The game is different now. Countries can't depend on one market anymore, and neither can you. The key to survival and success is diversification. Multiple markets, multiple incomes, multiple skills. A person with one source of income today is like a nation with one export product. It might work for a while, but it's one shock away from collapse. So what does escape really look like in 2025? It looks like agility. The rise of remote work, the digital economy, and new investment tools have opened doors that didn't exist 20 years ago. You can earn from anywhere, invest globally, learn skills for free online. But most people still operate with an old mindset, working harder in a system that was never designed to make them free. The smart ones play by new rules. They build digital leverage, financial literacy, and global awareness. Take the African Reports approach again. It talks about leveraging global transitions, clean energy, technology, digital systems. These are the new growth engines. On an individual level, that means investing your time and money where the world is already moving. Into tech, data, content, automation, green infrastructure, and real assets like property that benefit from urbanization and population growth. That's how you build a foundation that compounds, not erodes. And here's something few people realize. The middle-class trap is self-reinforcing through culture. In most societies, there's a silent pressure to conform, to stay within the same expectations as everyone else. You're praised for safety, not ambition. You're told to get a job, buy a home, settle down. The few who break out are often criticized before they're celebrated. That social pressure keeps billions of people locked in predictable patterns. That's how the trap maintains itself, through culture, not coercion. Breaking out means reprogramming what success looks like for you. It means valuing time more than status, freedom more than comfort, growth more than appearances. The moment you shift that internal compass, the system starts to lose its hold. Look at what's happening in places like Penang, Malaysia. New companies like Grithek and Vitrox emerge from ecosystems built by foreign giants like Intel. Instead of trying to copy the old model, they created a new one. Local innovation built from global exposure. That's the new playbook. Learn from the system, then build your own version. The same principle applies personally. Work inside the system long enough to understand it, but use that knowledge to create independence from it. Now, there's something deeper here. Every escape requires energy, and in the economic sense, that means infrastructure. The ECA report points out that Africa's ability to escape the trap depends on expanding access to energy. Electricity fuels factories, data centers, cities. Without it, progress stalls. On a personal level, your energy infrastructure is your education, your mindset, your environment. If those aren't strong, nothing you build will last. You can't run a modern life on outdated wiring. Invest in yourself first, the rest follows. When you zoom out, you'll notice that all these examples, whether countries or people, share one principle: ownership of evolution. South Korea didn't wait for the world to rescue it, it built its own champions. Individuals who escape the middle-class trap don't wait for promotions or luck. They build systems, they learn relentlessly, they adapt. They're not controlled by comfort, they control it. And here's the paradox. The middle-class trap feels stable until it suddenly isn't. One economic shock, one layoff, one illness, and the entire illusion collapses. Research shows that 70% of middle-class families are one paycheck away from financial strain. The average person has less than 3 months of expenses saved. It's a house of cards built on monthly cycles. That's not security, that's dependency, dressed as success. Escaping that means building true resilience. Multiple income streams, liquid assets, skills that are always in demand, and most importantly, a mindset that treats money as a tool, not a destination. Money follows value. If you create value that scales, money will find you. And yes, it takes time. Real change doesn't happen in a month, it might take years. Just like South Korea took decades to transform, just like Malaysia is slowly building its own tech base, just like African nations are laying the groundwork for sustainable growth. The escape isn't instant, but it's inevitable if you stay consistent. So where do you start? First, audit your reality. Look at your income sources, your expenses, your habits. Where are you trapped by comfort? Where are you overexposed to risk? What part of your life depends too much on someone else's decisions? That's your weak point. Strengthen it. Second, build leverage. Learn digital skills, understand real estate markets, invest in productive assets. Don't just save, allocate. Don't just work, create. Third, think globally. The world is more connected than ever. You can invest in African clean energy funds, buy property in emerging cities, build a global client base online. The middle class trap thrives on small horizons. Break them. And finally, embrace creative destruction in your own life. Let old identities fade. Let bad habits die. If you've been doing the same thing for years and it hasn't moved you forward, maybe it's time to stop defending it. Comfort isn't the goal, freedom is. Because here's the truth, most people won't escape. The system doesn't need everyone to, it just needs enough people to keep it running. The question is whether you'll choose to be part of that system, or part of what comes next. In the end, the middle class trap isn't really about class at all. It's about awareness. Once you see how it works, you can't unsee it. And once you start building your own path, you realize that freedom was never out of reach, it was just outside your comfort zone. So maybe the real trap isn't where you live, what you earn, or what you own. Maybe it's what you've accepted as enough. Watch the next video and see how the people who understand where the money's moving next always win. And if you're serious about staying ahead of that shift, hit subscribe. You'll want to see what's coming next. Oh, and if you're thinking of starting your own investing journey, take a look at the link in the description. It's the platform I personally use to explore global markets.